All right. Thank you all so much for coming today. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend it with us. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 reasons your service area pages don't rank anymore and how AI has changed that game. If you don't know us yet, we're Rook Digital. We help local service businesses turn clicks into calls and booked jobs through digital marketing. A couple of quick housekeeping things before we jump in today. Our web class will run about an hour, and we're going to do some live Q&A at the end. Anytime during the call, you feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Kevin is moderating those, so you can tag him directly, and he'll stop Phil if it's about what we're talking about and get those answered. Or if not, we'll hold them until the end. Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. We're excited to talk about today's topic with you all. I want to say hi to Ellen. Always great to see a fellow Michigander
Oh
uh,
yeah.
on these calls. So thank you for being here. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like Megan said, any questions you have about anything, just feel free to write them in the chat and I'll gather them. And if it, correlates with what Phil's talking about in the current moment, we'll interrupt him and he'll answer your questions.
Perfect. And so a couple more things. After the class is over, you're going to get an email from us. It's going to have a free workbook. This is going to cover everything that we talk about in today's web class so that you can implement it in your business right away. And then also, we offer a free No BS website audit if you want help applying any of these things that you learn in our web classes to your business. And with that, I'll turn it over to Phil, co-founder and CEO at Rook Digital, to show you the 5 reasons your service area pages don't rank anymore.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We're going to get into some super nerdy stuff, but I'm going to try to make it not too nerdy. So, I do have to say, the Michigan Mafia is live and thriving, and it's shocking how well connected everybody in Michigan is and how everybody knows somebody and et cetera. But we are happy to have you here. Great, great. We're excited. Again, we got some returning faces. We got some people on some of our other live streaming platforms. But other than that, for those of you here with Zoom, thank you for showing up. We had a bunch of people register, and every week it's interesting to see people who are interested in these topics and then they don't show up. That gives you a head start. So any questions that you have that we can apply to your business, you got a great opportunity for some free consulting today. Okay, so make sure you bring those up, put them in the chat. We'll bring you on whatever we need to do to get those answered. Aside from that, as mentioned, we're going to talk about specifically your service pages. How do we get those to rank better? How do we get more calls from those? How do we get more traffic? And how do we get more clients? So I am going to open up my whiteboard here on my iPad and we will get to the action. So let's get this here. I see that on my end. Do you guys see that on your end? Perfect. All right, so let's get very specific here with what we're trying to do. And I think ultimately the easiest way to conceptualize this is that in life you have customers and they are looking for you. One of the things that they're looking for is they're looking in the map pack. And I apologize, I have a dog in my office and it's raining outside. She's probably barking. Can you hear that? Okay, good. Yeah, Zoom does a pretty good job of blocking that. Anyway, so we have most people are going to Google, they're looking for things, and if you're in a service-oriented business, one of the best places to rank is going to be in the Google Map pack. I think a lot of confusion and a lot of old thinking is that your website is the most important thing that you have. And the reality is it is, but it's because it is the foundation that leads to all of these other rich experiences that Google are giving people. And that is where you see things like the map pin, which you've seen all over the place. You might see AI overviews, right? You might see the frequently asked questions. The people also ask stuff. You might see video. You might see social. All of that. All of that info and data comes from your website. Okay, so your website is the foundation. But when we're talking about how to get more leads and how to rank, how to get your service pages to show up more, we're also thinking about the map pack because that's the easiest win, I think, for people today. It's kind of leads into some of the past topics we've had. If you're interested in those topics, you can go to our YouTube channel. There's a bunch of information, a bunch of those that you can watch. But it all goes back to this kind of service area map pack system where people are looking where they're looking, and you need to show up in all of those places. Next week, we're going to talk about the fundamentals of search engine optimization, and we're going to talk about what really works to get your business to rank. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to allude to today, we're going to answer next week if you can make it to that web class. But to keep this tight, your map pack is one of the easiest places to rank. Okay. And users now, they are going through the process of going to Google, and then from there, they're finding somebody, and then they're going to go over and they're going to make a phone call. And for you as a business, that matters because that's dollar bills, right? That's a closed deal, that's a client, that's a lead, it's an opportunity to do your business. One of the problems we run into now is something called AI filtering. And we've talked a bit about this in the past, but AI filtering is keeping your clients from ever finding you. And that is why we have to have better websites, better service pages in order to rank in Google, rank in these rich features, and also rank in AI search, which is going to continue to become a bigger deal. So let's talk about one of the main reasons we see this issue. Why does AI filtering happen? And I think for anybody who's done any digital marketing, no matter what business you are, whether you're a chiropractor, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a digital marketing agency, very often we know that we need to have service pages. And we also sometimes understand we need to have location pages. So service pages or location pages. The principle I'm going to talk about here is the same. The content on these pages can be different. Service pages are typically designed to say, hey, and Ellen, you're here. I think let's ask you if you're okay with it. Give me like 2 or 3 services that you offer, or that you'd like to promote.
Um, Traditional chiropractic,
Okay. Like adjustments and that kind of stuff.
adjustment,
Okay.
extremity adjusting, which is hands, feet, shoulders, elbows, knees. I have a
Okay.
shoulder specialty, and I do holistic nutrition.
Okay. So if these are your service pages, and again, we can apply the same principles to a location. So let's say you're in Detroit, and then where are you located actually, Ellen?
Northville, Michigan.
Okay. And what are like 3 cities around you?
Livonia,
Okay.
um, Plymouth,
Okay.
and let's say Novi.
Okay. So you've got these other 3 locations, and I'm bringing that up so you have those in mind. And for everybody else on the call, think about those locations. What are some of the 3 areas around you? So I used to live in Simi Valley, California. An example might be Moore Park. It might be Agora Hills. It might be um, Oak Park. It might be the famous Calabasas where all the celebrities live. Those might have been some of the cities around where I was. Service oriented wise, if we're looking at it from this perspective, it's the same, and it's the same problem, which is each of these pages is a duplicate of that page. And all we're doing is we're changing a few words. Okay. And this leads to one of the big problems. It leads to basically if 90% of your pages are the same, AI says, not good. They're going to demote you. And Google, and when I say AI or I say Google, I'm saying the same thing. AIO, to define our big glossary term for today and something we talk about all the time, is AI optimization or SEO plus more steps. SEO or search engine optimization is the exact same thing. We just have to do more for the AI. But the principles are the same, the fundamentals are the same, and AI is mired in the infrastructure of SEO, which again, we will go in depth next week. Okay. But if A, B, C, D, and E are the same, except you're just changing the service information on the page, you're going to get filtered because it's considered thin or duplicate content. Any questions about this so far?
None in the chat.
Okay. All right. So how do we fix this? Right? Because you're like, well, I have a design and my design says these things should be the same. And I would agree with that. but we have to do it smart. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to kind of build a stack. We're going to talk about how to build these pages so that they rank better and get through the AI filtering. So the fix is one page must look like it was written for that city or for that location or that service, and it's not find and replace. Okay. So we're going to focus on one big term, specificity. And that specificity can branch off into two areas. We're going to call it topical, and we're going to call it regional. Okay. Topical is this. Regional is Plymouth, etc., right? It's all the other locations around you. Any questions about the difference between topical or regional specificity? Okay. So that's the goal. We need to build a page that allows us to swap out elements on that page to check the boxes of topical and regional specificity. Okay. So if we're going to build a scorecard here, and we're going to basically check off, my kids are, we're trying to get our kids to get some healthier habits. So we're using our star charts, which was one of my favorite things as a kid. So we're going to build our little star chart for our businesses. Sorry, I could do this much better, but I'm speeding through it. So the first thing we're going to talk about, right? Goal number one is specificity. Specificity. I'm spelling it wrong. And you need to give yourself a gold star here if your page speaks to the location and the topic. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about the next issue or reason you're not able to rank. And what this really boils down to is that you basically have no local proof. And this is a common mistake I see with most businesses is they don't have local proof. Okay. How do we define local proof? And I'm just going to ask everybody to think about this. And if you have an answer, you can put it in the chat. I want you to ask, how often are you asking your clients for reviews, taking before or after photos, or building case studies? Reviews, before and after photos, or case studies. So how do we get the local proof? And we're going to strengthen ourselves. This is my cool shield. You can tell I did well in my art classes. And your shield is here to kind of protect you from being filtered. And in this shield, there are elements that we need to have. So if we were just to divide this into 4, let's say that you're really good at getting your reviews, but you're really bad at these other pieces. How good is your shield if you're missing these pieces? If someone were to shoot an arrow, here's my cool arrow from like 4th grade, and it were to go through something with a hole, right? It's going to hit you. So the filter will get you if you're missing these holes. So let's define those. So number 1, we've got reviews. Number 2, we've got photos. Number 3, we're going to call those jobs. And then number 4, we're going to talk about your neighborhoods. We got my nice little dash there. So reviews are pretty self-explanatory, right? We get that. Do you have reviews? Are they fresh? Are they current? We've had several web classes in the past on that topic alone, how to get them, what's the game plan to improve them, what types, how to respond to negative reviews. We've got a lot of data on that, a lot of content you can go watch about that specific topic. Reviews might be the easiest thing to get. Photos is one of those things I think most people lack. My friend is starting a landscaping business. My property manager, not very good. He was fired. We were hiring my friend to come do our landscaping. One of the first pieces of advice I gave him after he left my house is I said, make sure you get before and after photos of every project you do. This is one of the biggest ways to show results. We talk about this in the past. We talked about weight loss pills, right? There's a famous scene on New Girl where Cece, who's a model, goes in and one of the characters goes to see her, and there's her looking awesome, and then there's another plus size model looking awesome, and they're taking the before and after photos for the weight loss pill on the same day. And then the joke is they're all fake, but the reality is before and after photos sell weight loss pills. They also help people understand your job, what you do. They're kind of a visual testimonial, if you will. So you should be leveraging photos. Photos can be your office. They could be your trucks if you're in a service business. They could be of a repair or a replacement if you're fixing something like a heater or doing HVAC work. Right? They can be your staff. Whatever it is that makes you feel real is going to be really important. And we talk about that in the world of generative AI, where anything can look real. I was doing some certification this morning. I am shocked at how good that golden retriever chasing the ball was for my test prompt. It was fantastic. Like the AI models are just getting better and better. And in the next year, it's going to be completely, we're already at the point where you can't tell anymore. The uncanny valley, as they call it, is kind of over. So the more real they are, the more they look like they're taking on an iPhone, the better. It's authentic and people like that. Okay. Number 3, jobs. Let's talk about jobs. Case studies is going to be a big one. Something you did and how it helped. What did you do for somebody in the chiropractic space? I'm assuming you have some HIPAA compliance there, Ellen. Can you give me a thumb up or yeah? HIPAA compliant important. Okay. And so in that case, you may not be able to get this or do this without a release, but you could still do it generic. Having them is better than not. Show what you did, how it impacted, and then give results. If you're in a B2B situation, direct ROI is always going to help move the needle. We did X, they spent Y, we were able to generate Z, right? That always helps. So case studies, evidence of jobs done. You can do more robust testimonials with logos if you're doing in a B2B situation. If you're local, it might be charities or something that you support or organizations, alumni, anything that can show and highlight that you're actually a working and sustainable business, we're going to call it a job. Okay. So it's proof that the job, proof of life, if you will. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Ellen asked on this topic if you were asking like to tell a story.
How would we tell a story? Is that what you're saying? Is that the question, Ellen? You can unmute Ellen if you want.
You're asking like for proof of evidence, like instead of a person, valuing, I could say a person, this happened yesterday. Hey guys, this happened yesterday. This patient
Yep.
had a really good result after a knee replacement. We adjusted their hips, which somebody didn't look at, and they were able to do blah, blah, blah.
Yep, 100%. That's a great way to do that. If you can document it in a world where you can get someone to sign a HIPAA release and then send a disclosure to help you if that applies to you. And again, we're not lawyers, so don't take this as legal advice. But if you can get approval and they are willing to even do a video testimonial talking about it, that's just going to absolutely convert better than anything written. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly how I'd approach that. Okay. Anything else on that topic from anybody? Okay. Next is neighborhoods. So let's talk about neighborhoods. I'm going to delete my beautiful arrow here that I drew with the help of AI. So neighborhoods. Why neighborhoods? Do you serve people near me? Is one of the questions people have. Are you in my area? And being able to speak authoritatively about your region will increase conversions. Okay. It also clarifies to AI that you are from that area. You're not just popping up a random city page like we used to be able to do in the early 2000s, early 2010s. Let me give you an exact example. I'm on vacation in Hawaii with my family in December, and I get a phone call, or I see a lead come through our website, and I see it's from Simi Valley, the city I was in. And so I'm like, all right, let me just call him instead of relying on my sales team to call because I'm the local. And I call him, it's the local plumber. And he's like, hey, I was looking at your website and I saw you're local. I really just want somebody local. Are you truly from Simi Valley? And I was able to talk authoritatively. And I told him, yep, I recently just moved from there. I lived there for 3 years. In fact, I still have paint on my truck where I nicked the yellow pole in the Taco Bell drive-through, and he laughed because anybody in Simi Valley knows that that's the worst drive-through in all of Simi Valley. You have to back your truck up, do a K-turn in the driveway, and I just didn't. I got it too close, but the paint on my car closed that deal. He became a client that day. He signed a contract that day because he was in pain. We were local. We were able to prove that, and we did it by having that local context. So just being able to speak authoritatively as someone from your region and your neighborhood is absolutely going to help. So that's going to help build that shield. So the point of this is AI and humans want proof. They just want to know that you are a local. If you're a national business, that's a different story, and we can talk about how to handle that. But if you're a local based business, you need to prove that you are from that area. And what's the fix? You're going to put city specific signals on the page. And that's all the stuff that we just talked about here in the shield. Okay. Any questions there?
I don't see any questions yet.
Okay, no problem. So again, if you're only targeting one city and you feel like your market's good enough for that city, just focus on that one and build there, and then you can expand additional city pages and additional service pages for those cities. That's all stuff we can help you kind of guide you through on an audit call where we can just kind of break down a strategy for your situation. So there are some people who have multiple locations, and we're talking about having service pages for each location in this situation. It can get a little complex. So if there's any confusion about that last point, let me know. We'll go over that. We can do it in an audit for you. Those are free. We're happy to do those. All right, so next, let's talk about one of the third big issue, which is wrong intent. There are two underlying principles that I learned early on in my digital marketing career. One is how Google looks at something called intent, and then they look at extent. Intent is why you're doing something, and extent is how much. And you can do too much, and you can do too little. And you need to find the Goldilocks zone, right? You got to find the area that works best, the sweet spot there. You're you have a good intention and you're doing it the right amount. This goes back to that old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. If you have good intentions and you don't do enough of something, you don't get a result. If you have good intentions and you do too much of it, you get penalized. Okay? If you have the wrong intentions and you do any amount of it, you're probably going to get penalized. Or something we call being blacklisted. You don't want that. It's a bad thing. You want to avoid it at all costs. So intent really matters. And it matters not just to Google, it matters as well to AI. Before I forget, right, we need to put proof up here on our scorecard, and let's give ourselves our gold star. My son does not care about putting gold stars. My daughter loves it. My son just wants me to do it. He just wants the candy he gets when he checks the box so many days in a row. So wrong intent, let's talk about it. So it's kind of, think about it like a bullseye with rings, okay? Has anyone ever seen a better bullseye? Just kidding. So it's still bad. If in these rings, right, we have several things. Number one, we have the city, and then we have the service. And if you get either of these wrong, the arrow, look, we're back. We did it. The arrow is going to miss the mark. So you have to nail both. You have to get the city right and you have to get the service right. And that takes us back to specificity, topical specificity and regional specificity. Okay. So as an example here, one of the things that we can think about is if you're a plumber in Dallas, if you're optimizing for keywords, you're doing your SEO properly, and you say, hey, I'm a plumber in Dallas, versus someone who says water heater repair in Dallas. One is broad, one is specific. So when someone goes to Google, this is the Google machine, and they find you, the filter and SEO in general will rank you highly on the page if that user searched for water heater repair. If you don't say water heater repair, you get filtered out. You don't even show up in this. Why? Because you didn't say it on the page. There's no context for that. So you could do water heater repair, but they don't know. It's not implicit that you do that, right? It's implicit, it's not explicit. And so you need to be very clear. And if you do, you're gonna get the call. That's where the dollars happen. That's the lead, because you have the service listed. So going back to the chiropractic topic as an example here. So an adjustment, if someone's looking, we have to find what they are looking for to describe these services. Okay. We have to look for how they search, not how you describe. One of the conversations we have with our clients all the time is the difference between brand and direct response. And these two things are not necessarily friends, but they can be. And you need to pick keyword phrases, which is what someone searches in Google, that match user intent, not your ego. Right? So we have to put it on there the way that they're talking about. The other thing we have to think about is our locations. So we've talked about this in the past, and we can pull this up here. I'm going to share my screen in a second. And I apologize. Ellen, what city are you in again?
Northville, 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 Michigan.
Okay. So we're gonna use you as an example. May we use
Sure.
you as an example?
You may, please.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm gonna switch my screens here. We're gonna share this. All right. You guys can see this okay?
Yes.
So one of the things that we talk about that I don't hear many people talking about anymore, and this is one of the delusional privileges of having done this for 17 years, is sometimes we just know more about things than other people do and other people don't. And this is one of those things no one talks about. And there's this filter, it's literally called the filter, called the possum filter. And this thing came out 2013 or so, 2012 or 13. There's the pigeon and possum filters that control the maps. And so what I'm looking at here is, if I look at this, this is what Google says those in your area who are looking for chiropractors, this is the area they're willing to travel to find a chiropractor. And those pin placements you see are the ones they consider to be the most authoritative. And the top three, the ones over here on the left, are the ones they consider to be the best, agnostic to who ranks first organically. Now, do you happen to show up here?
No.
Okay. You recognize these brands?
Yes.
Okay. And so they are doing things that are sending signals for local relevance within the possum filter right here. Okay. So if you try to serve too much, remember all those cities we were talking about before, the 3 cities around you?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have a physical location in one of those cities, you will never rank in the map pack for those cities, because they're saying the filter is only this, based on trillions of data points of users all around the world who look for chiropractic services and then click for directions or book a lead and then report that lead back through tracking on the back end. They're pretty solid, pretty confident that that's where people are willing to go. And outside of that, it's just it's a waste of time to show them. So do you show up in this map?
No, I mean,
You don't.
I see my office right there.
Your office is in this map. I
Yeah.
asked a poor
Okay.
question. Okay.
It's okay.
The good news is you can rank here, and it's just a matter of hitting the right signals to do that. Things like getting more reviews, maybe making sure that you have an active listing, making sure that your website is optimized for the right phrases, you have the right service pages, you are clear to the location, all of the signals we've been talking about today and have talked about in other web classes. That's how you're going to rank there. So you're within the filter, which is good. We just need to do the right things to get you to pop and get your pin to show up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's the possum filter. Now, this can change, right? So if I were to type pizza, Northville, Michigan, so the map changed, and here we can start seeing sponsored listings, which you can pay for to show up in the map listing through Google Ads. That's one of the shortcuts to get there first. It's a local placement ad. They call them local service ads now, I think is the proper term for that. But yeah, you can rank here if you're willing to pay per click. But other than that, to win the organic, you got to show up here. If we were to do something like appliance repair, you're going to see that map. See how big that got? It's like the whole state, man. Kevin, do you see your house on that map?
I do.
So appliance repair is one of those interesting ones. And do we have is it Dan? Is he on here? Is that who we normally we have a guy who does appliance repair who usually attends. And so this is an example of you can service a much larger area for appliance repair than you could. And it's probably because there are just fewer appliance repair people than there are pizza delivery spots or chiropractors, right? There's less competition, and it's a service-oriented business where you're going to that person's house to serve them rather than them coming to your office to get adjusted or coming to your office to talk about legal work or get a will or do probate law, whatever it is. Okay. Enough about that. Unless there's any questions. Any questions about the filters or how that works, and why you need to be local specific there?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Yeah, Ellen might be typing. She looks like she's typing.
Okay.
She said no.
Yep.
She said, get out of here, Phil. All right, let's get back to my whiteboard. Okay, so the possum filter is something we need to consider and we need to be aware of, right? And so we need to both target cities and states. And so we have to deal with the possum filter. I think they actually spell it possum, not opossum. So if I'm wrong, don't judge me for misspelling that. But that's my experience. And the goal here is we need to check the boxes for both city and service in order to rank within a regional area. And for local SEO, that is different than national SEO. Okay. So going back, let's put our gold stars up here, right? And we want to talk about intent. If we check that box, we're going to do well. And again, the workbook that we're going to send you after this will have a very specific guide for you on how to succeed as you implement all of this. Okay. All right, next, let's talk about one of the things we've already discussed, but that's thin structure. This is where we get to be really nerdy. And I remember I was on an on-site with my mentor, Parker. It was one of my first times when I was in account management. I went to go visit a client with him, and he started talking about, he started drawing some really complex stuff. And he was like, all right, let's talk about the architecture of your website. And this is like a sitemap. And here you've got your service pages over here. And underneath that, you're going to have all of this broken down. You're going to have these pages, right? And I was just like, man, I don't know anything about that. And he's like, well, that's SEO. You got to learn that. And so this is a typical site map. So this would be your home page up here. This would be your navigation. And then in your navigation bar, you might have services here. You might have your about. You might have your contact. You might have a gallery or a portfolio here. Under your service pages, this is where you might put your adjustments, or you might put your nutrition. You might put other services. You might have, maybe you have a line of supplements that you're trying to sell, whatever it is. You have all those things, all of that. One of the big mistakes that we run across is what we call an orphan page. It's an orphan page, which basically means there's no clear link from any other page. The way that these are linked, there's no link from the home page. Your service pages don't link there. It's just hanging out by itself. And this is where we get into something super nerdy that I think most people underestimate, and that's called Google PageRank and a principle that we would call PageRank pass-through. Sometimes I've heard this called link juice, which I believe to be just a really poor name for it. I've never cared for it, but I understand. PageRank is a score of 0 to 10. And again, we will discuss this way more in depth next week. It's a score of 0 to 10 of every single page on the web. And to jump ahead, if this is a pie chart of every single page on the web, which is trillions of pages, if we were to carve out 1% of that pie, 99% of them would be a zero. They would have zero authority with Google. It's so pervasive and bad that in 2008, Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, called the internet a cesspool of information. And that was before iPhones had 4K cameras, and that was before generative AI. It has only gotten worse. So PageRank is this score of 0 to 10, and you need to have it. And if you have that, you might also call it authority, is another term we've heard it called before. The authority, if you have authority, if you have more than everybody else, you rank better. Okay. But one of the mistakes we see is thin structure. And so if you do not have a link, because PageRank is passed through links. So for example, if this is my home page and I got a bunch of copy in here and I have a link in that page, that link can connect to another page and it's going to pass PageRank or link juice, right? You only have a certain amount. So if this is your bucket of link juice and you pass PageRank down, you're diminishing the PageRank. It loses authority as it goes down. So the bucket of PageRank on this page is going to be less because you're passing it down so it loses authority, but you have to pass authority. Again, this can be incredibly difficult to understand. It can be super nerdy, but hopefully this is making sense. Ultimately, what you don't want is you don't want an orphan page that has no links passing authority through it. You need to have a well-structured website that pass authority from the homepage down. Why? Because the homepage typically has the most authority. I've seen maybe 2 cases in my career where that was not the case, but typically the most authority. And you want to pass it down from the homepage to all the other pages of your website. And this is old school SEO that still works today, I promise. Okay. So orphan city pages don't inherit authority, and that means they don't get crawled or they don't get the same value. Here's another little nerdy tidbit. The higher your page rank, the more often you are crawled by Google. If you have a page rank 0, they're basically never going to come to your website, maybe once a month. If you have a page rank 10 and there's only about 10 of those websites, they're crawling it like every minute. They're constantly on there because you are so authoritative that the trust is there. By the way, Facebook, not a 10. Google doesn't even give themselves a 10. Like you have to be an incredibly authoritative website. We're talking the Chinese government website, the US government website, major websites, and of course, our favorite little joke, the Adobe Reader download page, because everybody links to it. Okay. So how do we fix it? We fix it with internal links. Or we call it, internal link building. And we will define link building next week as well. We'll go over that and help you understand its place in 2026, whether you need it, how much it helps, why we do it, why we wouldn't do it, what to avoid, that kind of stuff. Okay. So our gold star here, right? Going back to our chart. Do we have structure? We'll call it, well, let's call it page rank pass through, I think is better. Do you have that? If you do, awesome. You're going to start ranking better because you're passing authority you've earned on your homepage down throughout the rest of your site. Okay. Any questions?
So if one links into a social media source, does that hurt the SEO? They must link to each and every page.
If someone's linking out to social media, is that the question?
I'll read it. Yeah. So if one links it to a social media source, does that hurt the SEO? This is JD's question.
Yeah, yes, that was my question. Like you're saying you have to link down to every page, say if you have 10 pages, but how about when you link out to social media?
Yeah.
Then
So let's take a sidebar here and get into something to answer this question, because again, this can be incredibly complex. But let's talk about the current state of SEO and digital marketing and how Google's looking at things. And this is a little different than what we're going to talk about today, but I do think it's relevant to your question and this topic. So we'll take a sidebar. So if I go to Google, and I think my favorite person to demonstrate this is our friend Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is for anybody in the room. We all know who Ryan Reynolds is, right? This right here is called a knowledge panel. In fact, if I click on this, our boy Ryan has not claimed his knowledge panel, which I should send him an email about. I don't know Ryan Reynolds, but the knowledge panel is basically a reflection in Google of something or someone that is incredibly authoritative. In other words, there's no confusing that when someone looks for something, that's what they're talking about. These are incredibly difficult to get, especially within an industry or a niche or something like that. For your business, these are attainable. For your profession, not so much, right? If you were trying to Google the phrase chiropractor, the odds of you ever being the knowledge panel for chiropractor is just zero, because how many chiropractors, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be more topical relevant to like Wikipedia pages and, authoritative encyclopedia type content, non-partisan, non-commercial content. But for individuals like our friend Ryan Reynolds, we're talking about building something called an entity, and this applies to your business as well or your brand. So there's a free tool that we like to use. It's the Schema Markup Generator. And here under SERP and rankings, there's something called a knowledge graph tool. And if I were to type in Ryan Reynolds and I click on entity type, these are the things that Google determines are qualified entities: person, organization, local business for the chiropractors or plumbers or other people in the world, places, events, websites, educational organizations, sports teams, etc. Right here, person for individuals. If you're a screenwriter or a filmmaker or a sports person, this is what you want to do. If you're a business, it's either going to be an organization or a local business. And for Ryan, we're going to say person, and then I'm going to do a search. And then what we're going to see, and I promise no one else is going to talk to you about this, Ryan Reynolds, Canadian-American actor and entrepreneur. This is called a machine reference ID number or a machine ID number or an entity ID in his score. And that's a crazy score. Okay. So this is what Google's looking at to determine on the web what are things. And we're in a world now where we're trying to build entities. So your website, as I said, is important. It is the foundation for stuff. And I promise this is going to answer the question of how should I link my stuff together. So we need to build an entity. And if I click on this knowledge panel here, it's going to open up. Well, that matches this one. 100%, that's that. But for example, if I type in Phil Hudson, my name, and I do a search, we're going to start seeing a bunch of them. In fact, there's 124 potential Phil Hudsons. And if I click on this, that is not me. That is not me. Not me, not me, not me, not me, right? This LinkedIn page, if I click on that, not me. So that is not me, right? So I'd have to go through this and start finding which of these is the Phil Hudson. And that's not me, right? And the point is that you go through, and at a certain point, you're going to find that there are about 10 of these or 12 of these that are you, and you've got split personality disorder, and we've got to combine those things together so that you have a holistic approach that Google knows you are this thing. And that's where linking comes into place for your business or for your or for your person or your brand. So hopping back over to my iPad, I'll sketch this out and I think this will answer it. While I'm doing that, are there any questions about the entity conversation we just had or how that works? It's a very deep conversation and it's very new, but it's very important to understand. Okay. So let's sketch out this question. So when you're building an entity ID, and this is not link building, be very clear, because it's going to look like something called a link wheel. Link wheel is bad. We do not want those. No link wheels. Link wheels are used for spammy digital marketing SEO stuff. It's been bad for 15 years now, like since I basically got in the industry. But we're going to start with is your home page is the base. Your website is the base. That's the hub. And then you're going to have your social media profiles, Wikipedia pages, alumni pages on the web, Better Business Bureau, your Dun and Bradstreet ID, all of those things. And you're going to link from your website out to those social media profiles. And your home page becomes the hub in the spoke and wheel of building an entity. And that's not done through what we might call an HTML link necessarily. It might be done through something we call schema markup or structured data. HTML here is about, it's writing a link and it looks like this: href equals question mark or quotations, your URL question mark caret anchor text, or the clickable text, close anchor. That's HTML. Schema is like lines of data that basically say this is an organization, this is their brand, this is their logo, this is their address, this is their geo coordinates, this is their business type, this is their phone number, this is their hours of operation, all this stuff. That is AIO, and that is what we do really well for people, and that takes a lot of time to get through and explain and build and structure properly. But to answer your question, you're not losing page rank if you're linking. You lose page rank when you link. That definitely is true. But you're not doing it in a negative way because Google wants to see you share links. What they don't want to see is hoarding. So if you never link out to your site and you never pass page rank, you're going to get docked. And generally, we recommend linking externally to third-party authoritative sites. And again, we will go way more depth on this next week, okay? Because we're going to get into the history of the web and all that stuff to make this a little bit more clear. But you don't need to worry about it. You should be linking to all your social media profiles from your website. You should absolutely be doing that. You should be using structured data. You do not need to worry about that being negative. I would not link out of your site to a competitor because you will give them authority. Sharing your links, doing what we call reciprocal links. Hey, buddy, at the chamber, I'll give you a link if you give me a link. That's old, early 2000s SEO, and that's just they wash out and they don't help you, neither of you. So what you want is backlinks pointing in to your site, and then you want to pass those down, and you do that through in-text links. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. It's a good question. All right, so we need to have that. So again, coming back up, you need to have architecture, is what we'll call it. And we're going to give ourselves a gold star for that. So you need to pass link juice or that. You can't have orphan pages. So now let's get to the meat of this because I know we're running out of time. Let's talk about how to structure a page. So we're going to build out an outline of a page. So how do you actually do this for yourself? And again, we're happy to help you. Just sign up for an audit on our website and we will walk you through how to do this for yourself. But I'm going to assume this is my page. And we're going to just have blocks that we need to have. Okay. And we're going to call these. So one, you need to have a city and service headline. So your headline, that HTML tags H1 in your code, should say the city and the service. That's a way to send a strong signal that for the keyword intent and the region you serve. Number two, we want to have the we serve city, putting that in square brackets because you inject that proof strip. And what is in the proof strip? It's reviews, jobs, photos. It's your shield, right? So think shield from above. How long you've been in the city, why you're a local reviews, how many people you've served, yada, yada, all that stuff there. Number three, you want to have the top 3 services you provide for that city. Now, this is for location pages. So again, if you have a page that's specific to a location, you want to list those services. If you're one location and that's all you do, your whole site is going to be optimized for that location. And the service pages by default are going to have that. So you don't need to be, we do these things. I wouldn't say, hey, I wouldn't, for example, say on my adjustment page that I also do these 5 other things. I would want to push them down the funnel to that thing and one action, which is book the call. I might reference it, but I don't want to distract them from converting. So I hope that makes sense. Number 4, right? Number 4, you want to reference neighborhoods or landmarks in your area. Make it clear. And you can just do that through some bullets, right? You want to make people understand and recognize that you are a local and you understand these things. And it might be as simple as like, we're located next to Liberty Park in Salt Lake City on your way to Sugar House, right? That alone, if you're from Salt Lake City, Utah, you understand exactly where they are and you understand how to get there. It just kind of tells you everything you need. And you have that in your local city. We're by City Hall, we're by the post office, but you take a right, like that kind of thing. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. All right, next, section 5 on your pages. You need to have FAQs. How many? 3 to 5 per page. And I'm going to put this here. Must do. I've been talking about schema and FAQ schema for 5 years, and nobody does it. And it is absolutely one of the fastest ways to become an authority on your subject in your area is by answering questions people have about that. They're not salesy. They're truly just answering the question, providing value to a potential customer. And very often you can think of these as what are the objections someone has? Will my adjustment be covered by insurance, for example? Do you take insurance? Is there any risk with this? What happens if, how many sessions will I need? And obviously, those might be things you can't address and say there's no one size fits all answer to that. But you can give generals and say, for your specific case, please come in for a consultation. Kind of like the audit thing we're talking about here with you guys, right? I can't give you everyone on this call a very specific use case, but we can in a one-on-one. Next is you just want to have a very strong CTA or call to action. What does that mean? Pattern interrupt. And specific call, book, and the color or the size, something needs to be different from the rest of the page. If you can do that, you're going to succeed. Okay. Any questions about that before we get into the 7-day sprint?
Nothing in the chats.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about your 7-day sprint. You're just going to break it down. How do we make this actionable for your business over the next 7 days? So day number 1, what are we going to do? You're going to pick your top 5 services. If you have less, that's okay. You're going to pick your top 5 services, and then you're basically going to organize them. And if you have more than one, what are the top 5 cities you service? Okay, the more cities you have, the more difficult this becomes to rank. My recommendation is if you have one location, focus on owning that location first before you expand to the surrounding cities. Number 2, day 2, you're going to build a model page. And that might just be pen and paper. It might be mocking it up. It may be, if you're a web developer and you have those skills, it might be building it out in your platform. But it's basically you're going to build and proof. How do you know it's AI proof? Scorecard. You would score 5 out of 5. Specificity, proof, intent, page rank pass through, and you have strong architecture. Oop, let me zoom down. Okay, or these 6 blocks here. Those are all checking the same boxes here. Okay, again, we'll send this whiteboard and we will have all this in a workbook for everybody. So number 3, day 3, what are you going to do? You're going to add proof assets. And that might mean gathering them. It might be finding them, putting them in a folder, getting them prepared. It might be reaching out, getting new reviews from clients. And again, we got a bunch of other ways to kind of generate those reviews and kind of guides in these 7-day sprints you can go through on our other videos. Day 4, you're going to add internal links. You're going to make sure that you're linking to all of your internal pages properly. If you don't know how to do that, that's a great thing to bring up on the audit. We can walk you through how to do that very specifically. But think, you've got your service hub, which is like your service tab. And then how does that link to the city? And then how does it link to the service, etc. Okay. There's a very logical structure that professional digital marketers use for that. So if you have any questions, again, we can help you with that. Day 5, publish 2 to 3 city pages or service pages. Okay. Day 6, you're going to add FAQs. Now, if you did it properly, my opinion is you probably have it in step 2. You probably already have those built in. Should your FAQs be different per page? Yes, because you're going to have different questions for each service, but you're also going to have generals, right? Kind of general to what you do in your practice. So I kind of like to pick 2 to 3 specific per service or city, and then kind of 2 or 3 kind of standard that you're always going to get. How do you know they're standard? When you pick up the phone, what's the question people ask before they book an appointment or call you, right? If you have a dispatcher or if you have a call center or if you have a front desk staff, you ask them too, and they can tell you exactly what questions they get asked. But you're going to add your FAQs, and then you're going to improve your CTAs throughout the site. Make your buttons match, make sure that they're very clear, make them sticky, make your phone calls click to call, your phone number click to call. We love that one on our call on these web classes. And last, you're going to measure calls and leads, and then you can kind of repeat this process until you dial that in. But getting even just a baseline of where you were before you made these implements, and then checking or test and retest for those of us who do any mobility work. I don't know why I was writing restaurant. Retest. Brain is just hungry, I guess. It's lunchtime. Okay, but that's it, okay? That's your 7-day sprint. And again, we'll send all of this in a follow-up email. If you are interested in learning more, again, we do offer a free audit, and it is just at rookdigital.com/audit. You can see buttons all over our site. You can't miss it. They're big and they're yellow. And again, we are so confident that we can give you very actionable fixes on your website that we're willing to give you $500 if we don't give you 3 actionable tasks that you can implement this week to increase your lead flow. Okay, that's it. Any questions with the last little bit of time? I know we're already over, but any questions come up?
Nothing major. JD, yeah, I can email you the workbook from the 19th.
Thank you.
Yep.
I missed it. Thanks again, guys. I love learning this information. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And thanks again. It was great to get on a call with you, and we'll follow up on that stuff later this week, probably later today with you directly.
Yeah, whenever works for you, no rush.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks again.
Yeah, any other questions? Ellen, did your hand up? Are you good? Okay. Okay, awesome. Well, again, we look forward to helping you in the future. Hopefully you can attend next week. I think, Megan, I'm going to steal your line, but we are going to talk about basically the fundamentals of local SEO. Like, how do you rank a service business in Google and in AI? And I promise this is something that will blow your mind. Most people we talk about this with, they've never heard it, or if they have heard it, they don't understand it the way we teach it, and it will just demystify the whole process on the back end of this so that you can be successful. But that's it. Yeah. There's nothing else. Megan, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for staying the whole time with us. You are going to be getting an email soon with your workbook. Please download it. It's so helpful. Go through the steps, implement it on your website. Let us know how it works for you. We'll see you next week for local SEO fundamentals. And if you found this helpful, share it with a friend and help us get the word out. Thank you guys so much for being here.